Hero's Quest. Long ago, and today and beyond, there was and is and will be a caretaker who is forever busy making and tending new ideas. But the ideas he loves best are the ones he plants in the mind of children. "I'll never be brave enough to be a ranger," said Hero one day as he watched Caretaker creating flowers in the middle of wildflower woods. The boy sat with his hand covering his scar. People in Great Park never called him names, but the boy was sure he caught them looking at him. He thought they probably talked about him when he wasn't near. "A new idea," said Caretaker. "Let's try this one and see how it looks." "To do!" The old man motioned with his hands in front of his face. A bright yellow blossom exploded from the end of a stem. "Ta-da!" said Caretaker again. The flower changed. This time it had an orange center, and its petals were flat and rounded, not spiky. No, not right, Caretaker shook his head. "Let me see." He thought a while, his chin in his hand. The old man suddenly looked up, a bright light in his gray eyes. "Aha! I know." He lifted his arms. "Ta-dee!" The flower trembled, then its petals turned spiky on the inside, with a rim of smooth, cupped petals on the outside. "Aha!" chortled Caretaker. Perfect, just right. Absolutely beautiful. Now watch, boy, watch me." The old man stood on his tiptoes. His elbows were bent and held upright. Then he began to wave his arms. The knives and shears and trowels in his vest began to jingle and chime. "Ta-dee, ta-dee, ta-dee." More blossoms exploded. Caretaker waved his arms some more. He pointed. "Ta-dee!" Petals and stem, a flash of yellow. "Ta-dee!" The floor of the woods became carpeted with lush butter-yellow blossoms, all delicate orange at their centers. Caretaker twirled around. "Oh, they're beautiful!" He sat down. "Beautiful!" He held his middle and laughed for the joy of creation. Hero was amazed. He had heard that Ranger Commander and this old caretaker were the same person. The powers contained by each continually surprised him. One had the power of leadership, the other had power over creation. Hero was learning to love both faces, but in different ways. Caretaker stopped his ecstatic glee. He wiped his eyes. "What were you saying, boy?" For a moment, Hero couldn't remember. He kept seeing wildflower explosions in his mind. Then he knew. "I said I'll never be brave enough." In his heart of hearts, Hero wanted to be a keeper of the watch, one of the rangers who were always brave and true. The boy looked down. He held his hand tighter over his cheek. "I think," he continued, "that you gave me the wrong name." "Nonsense," said Caretaker. The old man stood. He tucked his beard into his vine belt, stuffed some tools into his pockets, and picked up his hat, a small apple tree in blossom. He took the boy by the shoulders. His voice was low and kind. Only a boy with the heart of a hero would defy the enchanter to find a king. It always takes courage to believe. But Hero knew he had only sought Great Park because he was afraid. Afraid of the enchanter, afraid of Burning Place, afraid of fire and of being an orphan. Hero pulled his collar up to hide his cheek. His voice implored, "Can't you make me brave? Can't you give me a potion to drink or a magic mushroom to eat? You can do anything. Can't you make a boy brave?" Sobered, Caretaker waved a finger beside his head. Let me see. I know. You need a quest. Yes, that's right, a quest. Heroes always have to have a quest." "A quest?" asked Hero. He hoped it would have nothing to do with walking over hot coals barefoot or standing in the middle of a circle of flames. What shall it be? The voice of the caretaker interrupted his thoughts. "Rescue a princess? No. We only have one princess in Great Park, and she doesn't need rescuing." Hero thought about Amanda and agreed with Caretaker. "How about walking through the thing that you fear the most?" Hero's heart bobbed in his chest. He could hear the crackling of flames. No, chuckled Caretaker, seeing the horrified look on Hero's face. "All things in the right time. Let me see." Hero took a deep sigh of relief. Why didn't they just forget this whole quest idea? Maybe he could just wake up one morning and feel brave. "I know," shouted Caretaker. He shook his finger in the air. "You must face your greatest enemy in fair combat." "Who's my greatest enemy?" wondered Hero. "Burners?" Cold sweat began to drip down the middle of his back. Maybe there was something terrible and unseen lurking in the darkest shadows of deepest forest. "Now on your way," said Caretaker. "I have other things to do today. Yes, yes. Face your greatest enemy in fair combat." Hero was puzzled. What a silly idea. A quest. How would that make him brave? If he found out his greatest enemy, he would probably find it to be greater than himself. Then who would defeat whom? Maybe Caretaker was playing games with him. If Hero could find Amanda, she would tell him if this quest was real or only some new game. At this hour, Amanda would be at the practice field, preparing for the great celebration that evening. Hero never went to celebrations. He was afraid of stepping through the circle of sacred flames. It was one of the reasons he knew he could never be a ranger. On the way to the practice field, the boy met the woodcutter, who was felling trees in wildflower woods. Shafts of sunlight caught gold tones in his hair as he worked. "Careful," called the man. "That tree's about to go." There was a slow crack as wood splintered, and then the great oak came tumbling and crashing to the ground. Hero's heart was awed by the mighty power of the fall. "Say, you look like a strong lad. Can you give me a little help?" the woodcutter asked. Hero thought he would like to help. He had a quest to follow, but it could wait. He grabbed one end of the cross saw with one hand. The other stayed glued to his cheek to hide his ugly scar. Lad," said the woodcutter, "you'll need 2 hands to do this work. 2 strong hands. The rhythm goes like this. You pull and ease your grip. I pull and ease my grip. You pull and ease your grip. Got it?" Hero nodded his yes. He put both hands on his handle of the long saw. He felt naked, exposed now that his scar was uncovered. But the woodcutter just smiled. He didn't seem surprised or dismayed. "That's a lad. Gotta use 2 strong hands." The boy and the man worked well together. Hero fell into the rhythm. Pull, ease, pull. Pull, ease, pull. Pull, ease, pull. Hero glanced time and again at the woodcutter. He saw his muscles stretch against his shirt. He saw the man's grace and skill as he worked the tool against the wood. It was fun doing a man's work. Hero forgot that his ugly face was exposed. In between cuts, the two rested. "Are you one of the king's men?" Hero asked. "Sure am," said the man, drawing a file across the saw's teeth to sharpen them. Then he winked. "One of the best of the king's men." When the huge tree had been split into stacks of lumber, the woodcutter thanked the boy. "You're a good hand. I hope the work didn't keep you from anything important." "Oh no," answered Hero as he covered his cheek again with his hand. "I was just going on a quest." He felt foolish and hoped the woodcutter wouldn't laugh. "I'm supposed to face my greatest enemy in fair combat." The woodcutter laughed. He hoisted the heavy saw across his shoulders. "Sounds like one of Caretaker's ideas." The woodcutter turned to go, and Hero watched him walk up the path whistling. Then the man turned and called, Lad, if you're going questing and you meet your greatest enemy, better use 2 hands." He nodded toward the other one Hero was pressing to his face. Surprised, the boy thrust both hands into his pockets. The man grinned, turned again, and soon was gone. Hero kept his hands in his pockets as he moved down the path toward the practice field. In a few moments, he emerged from Woodflower Woods. Hundreds of people were busy perfecting their skills on the practice field. A choir was rehearsing songs. A troupe of dancers was working out intricate steps to a folk dance. Hero could hear the rhythm master counting the beat. 1 and 2 and 3 and... Acrobats were perfecting the timing of their double loops and backflips over and up again. One man was balancing on a tightrope. Musicians were tuning instruments. Hero could see Amanda, along with other archers, drawing arrows across a large bow and aiming at a far-off target. Most of the time she hit the mark. Hero was amazed. How could a girl have such perfect aim? He chuckled to himself. Rescue a princess. Amanda would never need rescuing, at least not by him. The archers stopped to take a break. Hero felt hot from the day and tired from the work in the woods. He noticed that large tables were being dragged beneath the shade of trees. He walked over to help, and suddenly remembered the woodcutter's farewell. Better use 2 hands. Hero felt stupid. He had spent his entire life since branding time holding one hand against his face. How good it had felt to work that saw with 2 hands. He forced himself to help pull the tables into place with both hands. He carried trays of cheese and meats, bowls of fruits, great baskets of black round loaves. I have spent my entire life off balance, he thought, amazed at his discovery. Both hands are for working. The woodcutter is right. I will be at a terrible disadvantage if I meet my greatest enemy with one hand pinned to my cheek. He turned full face and looked into the eyes of the people around him. The jugglers, the acrobats, the clowns. No one pointed. No one drew back in horror. One big fellow clapped him on the back and roared, "Don't just stand around. There's a powerful thirst fixing itself out there. Pour cider in the mugs." So Hero did. He used one hand to balance the bottom of the heavy stone jug, and the other to tip and pour. 2 hands, he thought. 2 hands are better than one. He decided to carry a drink to Amanda. He wove his way through jugglers and dance troupes until he reached the other side of the field. When she saw him coming, Amanda laughed. She ran to him and took the cool drink, which had caused drops of sweat to form on the outside of the mug. "Oh, thank you, Hero," she gasped after gulping the cider. "You saved my life. I was dying of thirst." Hero laughed at her words. Too bad Caretaker didn't tell me to rescue a princess, Hero thought. I've just saved the life of one. She said so. "Have lunch with us," Amanda suggested. "We will be done in half an hour." The late morning grew warm, and Hero stretched out on the fragrant grass. His arms felt strong, exercised. He folded them behind his head. I wonder who my greatest enemy really is. He felt good enough to take on that enemy today. What's a scar? He asked himself. Lots of people have scars. Then Hero had a new thought. Maybe the scar had healed here in Great Park. Maybe it was almost gone. Lots of things could happen. He could even become brave. Then he fell asleep in the brilliant day. Before Hero became fully awake again, he heard a sound like a playful breeze. It was Amanda laughing. Hero had discovered that you always heard Amanda before you saw her. "Wake up, lazy bones, I'm starving. It's time to eat." She prodded him with her toe. He grabbed her ankle with his hand. She struggled. He grabbed it with the other and pulled. She tripped and fell, rolled over, scrambled to her feet, and raced to the tables with Hero chasing close behind her. With 2 hands, he could even topple the Princess Amanda. Once they were seated at the table, the princess introduced Hero to the jugglers' troupe. They welcomed him gladly. Then all became quiet, and a song was begun. Everyone joined hands, and Hero held on to those on either side of him. They sang, "To the king, to the kingdom and the king." Hero thought of the caretaker singing flowers into being this morning. He thought of the sound of the saw cutting into the wood and the rhythm of the cutting. He felt the strong grip in both of his palms. 2 hands. 2 hands. "Are you coming to the great celebration tonight?" asked Amanda. "It's country fair and circus and naming day party and pageant and feast day all rolled into one. It's where all the subjects become as they really are." Hero thought about the circle of sacred flames, which were ignited around Inmost Circle where the great celebration took place. He knew he would really be brave when he could walk through that fire. After lunch, the 2 children climbed Piney Hill just for the fun of it. The lookout loomed over the practice field. At the top, they had a bird's-eye view of Great Park. Hero could see Stone Gate entrance and the sleeping enchanted city beyond. He could see Caretaker's cottage and a line of ranger watchtowers. He and Amanda noticed the 6 charred circles that scarred the deepest forest after the fire. Acres of trees were burnt. Ugly stumps pointed monstrous fingers and arms in the air. Hero remembered Burning Place. He covered his face. "Will you stop that?" shouted the little girl, angry. "Stop what?" said Hero, surprised. "Covering your face with your hand. It makes you look so idiotic." Quickly, Hero took hold of Amanda's shoulders and turned the princess around to face him. "Amanda?" he asked. "What do you see when you see me?" Maybe his scar had gone away. Maybe Great Park and Mercy's cottage and Caretaker had done something wonderful for him. None of the people in the practice field had pointed at him or snickered. His heart beat wild with hope. The princess looked him straight in the eye. "I see a good-looking boy with an old wound on his cheek." "Oh," said Hero, disappointed. "But that's not all I see," the girl continued. "I also see a hero." He shook his head. He turned his back to her so she could not see his face. His voice was low. "I'm no hero. I was supposed to go on a quest today. I was supposed to face my greatest enemy in fair combat. The day's half over. I don't even know who my greatest enemy is." "Whose idea was this?" asked the low, impudent voice behind him. "Caretaker sent you on this quest, didn't he?" Hero turned back to look at her. He deliberately stuck both his hands into his pockets. Is it a game? I'm terrible at games. Amanda smiled. Her voice was very low. It's no game. He sent me on a quest, too. Sooner or later, he sends everyone on a quest, and we all begin by facing our greatest enemy. Hero wanted to cover his scar, but instead he pushed his hands deeper into his pockets. Did you face your greatest enemy? She nodded her head yes. Who was it? The same as it is for everyone, Amanda giggled when she saw his perplexed look. I can't stay around here all day answering questions. I have to go and get ready for the great celebration. Well, go then, Hero said gruffly. What's keeping you? He struggled against a strong urge to give her a push down the hill. I can't go, she answered in her most commanding voice. You are standing on my gown. Hero knew he would never understand. Was Amanda pretending or trying to fool him? All he could see were her shirt and well-washed blue jeans. But in Great Park, one never knew. Things were always more than they seemed. He stood his ground, feeling foolish. I'll get off your gown when you tell me the name of your greatest enemy. In one lightning move, Amanda purposely tripped him and toppled him to the ground. His hands had been stuck, useless in his pants pockets. He fell to his back and the girl stood over him, challenge flashing in her eyes. Don't you know? Every person's greatest enemy is himself. It is ourselves we have to face before we can make any other quests. With that, she ran off down the hill. Flat on his back, Hero again heard the words of the woodcutter. 2 hands. 2 hands. It was true. If he used 2 hands for the rest of his life, he would be forced to face everyone and everything, including himself. So the boy learned that quests can be a journey inward as well as a journey outward. There is a kingdom within that must first be conquered before one comes brave enough to challenge the world without. This is an idea that all caretakers of the soul know.